Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Utterly Unscripted. Today, I am joined by June Ahern from juneahern.com. Hi, June. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
Lovely of you to join us. Would you introduce yourself to the audience? Let us know who you are, and let's get into it.
Okay, so who am I? Well, I'm a double Gemini, so I could be anybody at any time. I could be switching at the same time. Well, let's see. I started out being very interested in the tarot cards because I went for a reading and the reading with other cards and the information given to me. Now, this is 1969. And the information given to me within a month later, 1970, I had a near fatal car accident.
Oh,
So I
my.
had a near death experience.
Wow.
And I just wanted to know, how did this woman see this accident? So I got interested in the tarot cards for my own self, for interest and fun. I started reading for some people. They sent more people. And before I knew it, I actually had a career in reading for people.
Wow.
And yeah, I'd always hold other jobs because after all, that couldn't be a real job, And I started teaching classes in the early 80s, how to read the tarot, how to do your ESP. And everything I was doing is because I was interested in it. I liked it. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
It was my hobby, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it just kept going and going. And then somebody said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I wrote a book, and then I got on television, and then I got so things just kept happening.
What was
Well,
it
I guess I
like?
did work.
Tell me, because I'm interested to hear that. It's something actually I've never bothered to ask anybody, especially when you said it was 1969 when you went and got this first reading. Was it different then, like going and getting readings from people and that type of, I guess, lifestyle? If you were going to someone who was a reader, was it different to what it is now?
Well, the difference is, for one thing, you either never told anybody you did it
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
people really thought everyone that did any readings was a charlatan or they were a gypsy. They were going to take you for all your money. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't really out in the open. Also, I came from a very strict religious household,
Right.
and you just didn't talk about it. Though my mother read our tea leaves, but
Yep.
we weren't supposed to ever tell anybody that she did it.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like it at all like it is now,
No.
where you can find readers on the web. Readers are
Yeah.
everywhere now.
You could
You
throw a
had to
stone and probably
really,
hit five.
yeah, yeah. You put psychic readers, and you got the whole thing. And then um,
Yeah.
it was a friend. A friend had gone, and she had told a group of us girls. We're all teenagers, and of course
Yeah.
we wanted to do it. So yes, it was very different then. You never really heard much about the tarot cards at all. Very, very few people
Yeah.
have seen them or knew about them. People would say,
That's
"What are
interesting.
those?" Yeah,
So it was a
very
very
different.
mystical type thing.
Yeah, very kind of in the closet still kind of feeling.
Yeah. And interesting too that you brought up the religious aspect because that has actually come up quite a few times where the religious side of things, especially when you're talking about tarot and mediums channeling, now we're exposed to it all the time, and more so than even when I was younger and going to school. I went to a Catholic school, and
Me
it was
too.
considered then to be Satan's work. It was the devil's handiwork if you were dabbling in that kind of thing. You were trying to invoke something that was occultish, and to the point where I was even reprimanded by a teacher for having an interest in tarot. Just the cards, I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't, going out there with an athame and trying to invoke spirits of the northeast, west, and south. But you
Well,
would have thought that I
yeah,
was.
yeah. Well, I went to school with the nuns with the long, robes
Okay,
on and the
yes,
big
yep,
rosary beads and everything.
yep,
Um, and my even some members of my family, I had my a brother told me I was working for Satan, and of course my sisters were all into it. Females tend
uh-huh,
to be a little different,
yeah,
but yeah, I had finally asked a priest. I stayed up as a practicing Catholic until about 1984, even though by then I was already into witchcraft and different
Right.
things. Because, the Catholic religion itself is rather occultish. We got the
Yes.
candles and the incense. I used to love frankincense. Remember
Oh
on the
yeah.
high mass and all of that? Um, I asked the priest, he said to me, and this was a fabulous priest. Everybody loved Monsignor, O'Malley. And he said, well, if you're saying to people that they should follow you, you are greater than God, or if you're doing that, yes, then it is not seen favorably. But
Of
if you're
course.
reading somebody and it's helping their life and you are not claiming to be God or better than God, then there's not a problem. And I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, wow.
And
Well,
really, the
that answers that.
basis of everything, especially when we're talking about spirituality, is not that, people who are practicing spirituality who maybe have deviated away from Catholicism, they're not claiming to be gods, demigods, or anything like that.
No,
In fact, they teach that the universe is the highest power. There is
yeah,
a higher power, and that is a strong belief that runs through even witchcraft.
yeah, whatever
Wicca,
you want to
it
call it.
teaches you, yeah, exactly. So it's funny though, the lack of understanding that causes
Yes.
people to be really judgmental and
Fearful,
incorrectly so. Yeah, fearful. It's fear. Yeah.
superstitious, fearful, judgmental. You know,
Yeah.
um, it,
Interesting.
in the 60s, we and I was in Haight Ashbury. I grew up in San Francisco, and there was a lot going on. As I
Mhm.
say, I was a product of my environment, and anybody could take it any way they want. But I was right in there doing whatever everybody was doing in the 60s.
In
Haight
San
Ashbury.
Francisco.
Yeah. And
San
there was
Francisco's
an
always been
openness.
very progressive though, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes. Sometimes you find that in kind of seaport cities because
Uh-huh.
so many
Yeah.
different kinds of people are coming and going. It isn't, you're not landlocked, so to speak, to just one kind of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, yeah, I get
So
that.
I
I
think that
can I
might be
can see
why.
how that could be. Yeah. Although
Yeah.
Adelaide is a seaport, well, it's a kind of port where I grew up, but it's very insular. We didn't start getting cruise ships until the early 2010s or 2000s really. So and that was just cruise ships. We weren't getting military people, not like Sydney and
Yeah.
even
San
Melbourne for that
Francisco.
matter. Yeah,
Yeah. We
so
had lots of
those
sail,
were the
lots of
cities that
military.
are
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those were the cities, especially in Australia, that seemed to be more progressive, and especially Sydney. I mean, everybody knows about Sydney, and they have
Yeah.
the largest gay and lesbian pride festival in the world, really. And
Oh, they do in the
they,
world? Wow. Oh,
I
okay.
think so. The Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras, yeah, it's televised
Oh,
worldwide
it's
every
got to be
year. Yeah,
great.
it's
It's
wonderful.
got
I've
to be
been
great.
twice. I have been
Yeah.
twice, and this last year, I think, or maybe it's next year, I think is 40 years that it's been
Wow.
going. So it's one of the older ones. So
Yeah.
it's a very special time. Unfortunately, COVID really changed things for the Mardi Gras. It wasn't as I always used to say that it was a little bit of a mosh pit. The first time I went was the
That
30th anniversary. So it was bodies rubbing up against other bodies and no room to move. And everybody was there uh, to celebrate love and equality. And now with COVID, of course, we've had to be distancing from each other. And
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, it was terrible. Last year, they did it at the Sydney Cricket Ground, so it was a good one because people could come again, because the year before they didn't have any crowds at all. There were no crowds welcome. This year you could buy tickets, and I think they had 50,000 people that were able to
Whoa.
come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
which was small.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
here in San Francisco, as you know, we have our Gay Pride Parade, and it's growing all the time. Um, but it hasn't been around as long as I don't remember as 40 years.
Yeah.
like
Well, they also
Sydney.
have Folsom. Is it the Folsom Pride?
Folsom
Is that the
Street,
one?
yeah. Well, Folsom
Yeah.
Street, yeah, there's a lot of the, S&M and all of that,
I,
and
I
yeah,
I've seen something to do. In fact, I was
yeah,
talking to a guest about it, and I've got somebody else who will be coming on the show later, and they'll be talking about more into the darker. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say darker side because it feels like I'm taking away from that. But I'm not taking away from their experience or making it less than. It's just different. Let's say
it's
different.
different,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is different
yeah,
to what is maybe mainstream.
yeah, I just
Mainstream has
remember.
changed now.
Yes, mainstream is very changed, much
Yeah,
more open. I think that if someone decides they like it and they can go, maybe they're not into it, it's not their thing, but they
yeah,
enjoy watching it all and having a good time.
yeah.
Well, what's the problem in that? I don't know. I don't get it when I hear people saying, "Oh, that's the perverts down there." Well, I think the
Oh,
perverts are hiding under the guise of being really straight people.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a whole other discussion, which I've been open to having that, although everybody seems a little fearful of having that discussion. But perverts are everywhere. They don't have to be necessarily homosexual, bisexual, transsexual. I do
Absolutely.
believe that a lot of the hate comes again from fear. So we were talking about, spirituality and the hate and the um prejudice that people who were light workers and working in that field were subjects of fear.
Yeah,
They
and
were
that started
misunderstood.
centuries ago,
Yeah, yeah.
where
And
the
it's the same thing now with gay and lesbian trans people that a lot of the loudest people are a minority, but it is just fear and not understanding.
yeah, and it's definitely fear based that they one don't understand it. They couldn't imagine
Yeah.
their life like that, and they're afraid. I think that they're afraid. What if I actually really feel that way? I think that
Yes.
people that are very aggressive, very judgmental about gay people have a fear that they don't want to get turned. They don't realize,
Yeah.
well, you either are or you're not. You're
Yes,
not going to
yeah.
get turned if you're not.
We've seen that a lot actually in mainstream media, especially in the mainstream news. We've seen that a lot. In particular, here in Australia, not so much, but in the United States, there have been a few
Oh,
very outspoken, loud, prejudiced senators and members of your
absolutely.
Congress who have been found with men, and they've been the
Yeah,
loudest people talking out against gay, trans, bi rights,
absolutely the
lesbian rights.
loudest.
So yeah, and then they get caught with people, and the stories start coming out that they actually have done. They're the ones who are not all of them, but they're the ones who seem to be in the headlines as the Me Too movement. Not to take away from the Me
Yes,
Too movement, but when that all happened, it suddenly opened up. I feel like as a species, we are slowly evolving.
we are
We're
definitely
slowly
slowly
growing.
evolving.
Yeah, we are
Yeah,
spiritually evolving a little bit and opening ourselves up to the fact that there are things we don't see and hear sometimes, and it isn't just in real life, but they were the stories that were coming out then. They were the strict religious people who said that it was abomination, and yet they're raping little boys. I find that I have trouble, I have
yeah,
trouble putting that together in my head.
yeah. It's their own shame of
Yes.
having this feeling, this drive, and so they want
Yeah.
to make it. They want to. What do they call it? Flagellation, where you're hitting yourself and you're hitting yourself
Yes.
because you're so bad. It's a guilt. There's
A guilt
not
thing.
like in
Yeah.
Buddhism or other spirituality where you love yourself. They hate
Yes.
themselves.
They do hate themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Which
think that
kind
the
of brings me
younger.
to I'm sorry, go on.
Well, talking to some younger, I have a younger grandson, and listening to the younger people, younger than me is not hard to be. In my 70s now, everybody's younger, 50s young. And they're talking more of their choice to be bi or to be
Uh-huh.
trannies they're open. The younger people are more open to it. They're
Yeah.
finding
Yeah.
themselves. Uh, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you will decide, you will know as you mature, you'll have a better sense of who you are.
Yes,
And
yeah,
it has
absolutely.
nothing for me to do only with sexuality. It has to do with who you
No.
are, you
Well,
know?
these days, there's demisexual, gray sexual, asexual. There are some people who, like asexual, they feel no sexual attraction
Right.
at all. It's not about sex for them at all. So, and then there's gray sexual, which is someone who now I'm going. I just learned this recently, so I feel like I should talk about it.
Yeah, we're all learning.
The gray sexual movement is somebody who only feels sexual attraction to somebody that they have an intellectual connection with. So
Oh,
there are people who, there are people who are just very sexual. I have a friend who's a bit of a slut, and that's fine. Like she knows that she is. She
yeah.
admits freely that she's loving
She's
being
a hot
single
mama.
and
She likes sex. Yeah,
yeah.
highly
Yeah,
sexual.
she
Yeah,
loves highly sexual, and she doesn't need to have any emotional connection with somebody to hop into bed with them. It's just purely physical. Then you've got, the demisexuals and gray sexuals where there has to be an emotional connection in order to feel any sexual attraction at all. So these are not people who are running around hopping into bed with everyone, and it's not that they don't like sex, it's just they don't feel the sexual attraction without
yeah. Well,
a
we're kind of
deeper
brought up.
connection with someone.
We're brought up to believe it has to be for procreation. It has to be for love.
Yeah.
It has to be for this is your partner, and
Aha, yeah.
some people that's what they need. But like your friend, the slut, she knows that
She's gonna love
she
that I
like
said that.
she likes sex, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like you have your sex and you say, uh, "No, don't hang around. We're not having breakfast."
pretty much. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I
Nothing
do
wrong with
worry
it.
about her that she may get attached to the wrong person. She's been in that situation before, and I
Yeah.
do feel concerned. However, I've also learned recently there are certain things that I can control, and who she falls in love with and who she has sex with and who she develops an emotional connection with is completely outside of my control and my responsibility. I don't have a responsibility to make sure that she does the right thing. It's at the end, it's her journey and she needs
Yeah,
to.
it's right for you. And maybe you can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
through. You love her. She's your friend. You don't
Of
want her
course.
to be hurt,
Yes,
but
that's
only
right.
she can decide that. She sounds like she's probably a pretty intellectual woman anyway. I think she's probably
Yeah,
pretty
she
smart.
is.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
feel like
yeah,
this
she
is
is.
some
Yeah.
dummy out there just screwing everybody that comes around.
And believe me,
I think
there are, but hey, whatever makes you happy, I guess.
I guess so. Looking for Mr. Goodbar,
Yeah,
looking for
yeah.
that connection. Um, I really, coming again, it started in the 60s, your van or mine. So I don't have that same reaction
Ah, yeah.
other than, is it
Yeah.
hurting the person to be this way? Are they really looking for
Yes.
something different? That's a different story.
Then again, though, even if it is hurting them, how far does your responsibility go? You can only say so. That saying, you can lead the horse to the water, you can't
Hmm.
force them to drink. It's something I
Right.
like to think. I think that very often. I remind myself of that often because it then comes down to my mental thing. I can only control so much. And
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
lesson
what
that we
is that?
all have to learn. We all
Yeah.
have to learn that we can only control ourselves, not everybody else.
Let me accept what I cannot change. Let me change the things I can,
Yes.
and let me have the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so from a spiritual perspective, that is their evolution. That is their spiritual growth. That, you
Yeah.
can't interfere with that. If
Yeah.
you
It's their
interfere with
karma.
that, you're not doing the right thing anyway. You're not yeah. You're not doing the right thing by yourself because they're not worried about you. They're not
Yeah.
worried about what you want for them. It's all about what they need.
Well, the yeah, I think it's okay for me to if I when I do have really good friends I'm very close with. If I see something that I think could potentially not be helpful to them or
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
Uh, I could say, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a nag. Once I say something,
Yeah.
if I say it once or twice, I have some friends that are alcoholics.
Mhm.
I love their company for a certain amount of time. I've
Until they've
said to
had
them a
so
few
much.
times, yeah, yes, I've said a few times, hey, you're an alcoholic. Have you thought about maybe changing that? And I've said it a few times. They have changed it. They're
Yeah.
still my friend,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. And again, it goes back to this thing. What is my responsibility? My responsibility is my thoughts, my actions, my words. What is not my
Yes.
responsibility is somebody else's thoughts, actions, and words. They can only be responsible for what they do, and you are only responsible for what you do. And you come from a place of love and you share that with your friend. They can change or they don't. And
Yeah, it's up to them, but
at
you
the end
love
of the
them.
day, it is. Yes, exactly. Yeah. They can
I had a
make that
friend that
decision.
died a few years ago, and I absolutely
I'm
loved her.
sorry.
She introduced me to Wiccan
Okay.
practice. A delightful woman. Unfortunately, she had the illness of alcoholism, and it killed her. And I
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
sad. I sad when I think of
It's
her.
sad.
That was her journey, and she had enough people talk to her. When I said to her about this alcohol is going to kill you someday, you know that, and she cried and she said, yes, I know. And that
Yeah.
was her thing, but I loved her anyway, and I
Yeah.
still spent time with her.
Well, of course, because otherwise, what are you doing if you're not? You know, you can make the decision to maybe cut them out of your life, but
Yes,
who is that
yes, you can do
harming?
that. Yeah, if
Yeah.
it hurts you and
I'm
it
not saying that
annoys
people
you.
shouldn't do that if, there are negative people that there are people who have a very negative effect on your life, and
Yes,
there is absolutely sometimes a point where you have to say, I need to do the best thing for me, and that is I have to walk away from this toxic situation
it's called
if it's
letting go with
affecting
love.
you.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
letting
right.
go with
Yeah.
love. I had to do that to a husband, who had addictions, interfered with the
Mm,
family life a lot. And I
yeah.
learned I had to
Yeah.
let it go with love. I wasn't going to
Yeah.
talk bad about him. I wasn't going
No.
to condemn him. He did not have the ability to want to have a family with our child the way that I wanted to. So it was letting go with
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. Letting go with love. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It's
good.
hard, but all that hate. Oh, I hate them, and they did this and that.
Yeah.
No,
Well, who is that hurting? Who is affected by that hate? That's what you have to ask yourself. You can hate
yes,
anyone as much as you want, but the question you need to ask yourself is this hate productive? And I can guarantee you 100% of the time that your hate is not productive. It isn't doing anybody any good, and it is certainly not affecting the person that you're putting all this hate out into the world,
yeah.
it's not helping anybody.
That's very well put. When you hate somebody, you are putting that out into the world. And the difficult thing that people don't realize is the world, the universe, is giving it back to you. It's saying,
That's right.
okay, you're
Yeah.
unhappy. Okay, you hate. Well, we're going to have you meet people that hate even worse than you. You're going to be angry at the
Yeah.
bank teller. You're going to be angry
Yes.
at the person crossing the street that's taking too long, and you want to hurry up and drive. There's no peace in it.
No.
It's just hate. It's a fire
And it doesn't
energy.
take much either. It doesn't take a lot for it to start coming back. There's that rule, whatever you put out, you receive back threefold.
That's right.
Um,
That's the
I learned that a long time ago. I think I was maybe 11 or 12 years old when I read a book that told me about the threefold rule. And
hmm
people often forget it, and they should maybe think about that a little bit more. And I've talked about this with another guest, that you need to be very specific about what you put out to the universe, because what you put out you are going to get back, and it will come back unfiltered. I like to call it uncensored.
Yes.
Whatever
No
you're putting
script.
out there, exactly. Whatever you put out there is coming back to you. So you need to be very specific. And we talked about that in small terms, things like, I want excuse me, I want more guests for my show, just as an example. I want more guests from my show, but I'm not specific about what kind of guest. And suddenly I had 175 requests within a week from just
Yeah.
anybody. And,
Yeah, me,
if
one of
anybody's
them.
listening and, well, but when you came to me, I was very specific about the type of people I was looking for.
That's right, I read that, yeah, yeah.
So instead of just a general call out for people, and which I did that at the very beginning. And hey, I've had some wonderful guests. I really have had some wonderful guests. I've had some not so wonderful guests as well, and their episodes will never see the light of day, but that's the choice that I've made, because I
Yes,
feel as though the stuff I need to put out into the universe, this show, this podcast works in exactly the same way. I want to put positivity out, and I am receiving positivity in return. It's selfish, maybe. The reasons that I'm doing the podcast maybe are a little bit selfish, that I'm looking for some positivity. I need some good shit happening, you know? I
yeah.
That's what I want. That's my goal, is to put some good stuff out there. Whereas there are a couple of interviews I've had where I just thought, actually, this doesn't bring anything to anybody. I'm happy to
It's
talk to anyone about
not
anything. I'd
your
even talk
role.
to Donald Trump if he had anything good to say.
He has good things to say about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that
Yeah, he does.
count?
No, it doesn't.
Well, here's something, and I'm going to, be doing I do classes once a month on
Yeah.
Zoom and stuff, and like that. And I share what has worked for me. That's how I look
Uh-huh.
at it. If I've tried it out and I've lived this life, well, then I'll talk to you about it. I'm not going to just tell
Yeah.
you from a book. Um, because we live a certain way that we want to impact humanity or even one other person in a more loving, positive way, it doesn't necessarily mean we're always going to have that in return. We
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
also experience very difficult, challenging, and God knows that I have had that in my life. Uh, People say, "Oh, you're so optimistic. Oh, your life is so great." Well, I just don't really share a lot of the other stuff,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happened in my life easily. I'll share it. So it's okay to know that you can continue to do good deeds because you are a loving person. It doesn't mean
Mm.
that all people and all of your life experiences will reflect that back to you.
Of
And that
course.
is because you still have your karma you have to work out. You still have lessons that you have to do. So when
Yeah.
you're on top of the world and all of a sudden the rug's pulled out from you, it doesn't mean you did anything bad. It just means, well, what
No.
are you learning from that? What are
There
you
are
getting out
lessons,
of it?
yes.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
lesson. And that's something I want to let people know when this class I have coming up, creative visualization, manifestation, telepathic receivers and senders and all of that. But because they're going to come thinking, oh, now I have the answer. Now I'm going
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
create all this. Well, you can, but stuff is still
Mm.
going to come up.
That's really important, actually, because I have worked with people doing what's called karmic cleansing.
Hmm.
But karmic cleansing, I think, is misunderstood, where people think they can just erase bad karma. With actually, karmic cleansing is about helping you to accept the karma that you are due to receive, and helping you to actually identify what lessons are in the karma. So it's actually helping you to just receive it a little bit easier, because some people go through these cycles of receiving their terrible karma, and some of it is really bad, and I've seen some people really struggle, and they've been in some terrible situations, um and they don't know how to get out of it, because they're not learning the lessons that the universe is trying to teach them by sending these things to them. So they just go around in an endless cycle, and they're constantly doing the same thing over and over again. In Australia, we call that flogging a dead horse.
Oh, yes, I know. I
It's
hate that saying.
it's not a very nice saying, but
It's
the
not,
picture
but
the
I
picture that
know
you
it.
get when you use that analogy is powerful.
Oh, yeah, because I'm a horse person. I had a horse for
I
years.
love
So,
horses. I live on
yeah,
a
I'm
farm. I
still
live on a
tuned with them.
13-acre farm, so
Oh, yeah, if I had a lot of money, I would have a horse, but they're very expensive to keep
they are expensive.
unless you do
Animals
have
in
all that
general are
land.
very expensive to keep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, expensive to have a big animal, you know, but,
Absolutely. Well, I have 2 ferrets and they're very expensive.
well, that's what I mean. I mean, even our cats and our dogs, it's like, oh, what
Yeah,
about their teeth? Oh, what about their shots? Oh, with the
that's
horses,
right.
as soon as you
Yeah.
mention something's wrong with it, everybody in the horse world goes, oh no, I have to call the vet. Oh no, cha-ching,
Yeah.
cha-ching.
Dollar
Even
signs,
just
yeah.
even just driving out here, the vet coming out, you're
Yeah.
like, oh
Exact
no.
just for him to get out of the car, the vet just steps out of the vehicle and you've
Just
already
to
paid
look at the horse,
$300. Yeah.
not even touch the horse yet.
I feel like animals are also a bit of a karmic messenger.
Oh
They could teach us
yes,
quite a lot, and I'm looking for anybody who will talk to me about that. I love talking about animals, actually.
me too.
Animals are probably more enjoyable than humans a lot of the time,
Often, yes,
because they're just so pure and innocent, and everything about them is love. Whereas
yes.
humans have this other side to them, and humans can be good too, but animals are so much better.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take my one of my little grand dogs, little Norwich Terrier. She loves everybody. She loves people. She loves other dogs. She likes cats. She's just a love bug. When I did
Yeah.
introduce her to my horse, though, she freaked out because I picked her
Oh,
up. I go, look, and she went, whoa,
I guess yeah, it was
that's
a little
really big.
terrier. Yeah.
And you can communicate, and I think people that like you who love animals and have animals do communicate with their animals.
Yes.
You know when that animal wants something.
Oh, yeah.
When they want
You learn
out,
their
they want love,
language.
they want water. Yeah, you learn their language. It's
Yeah.
not as hard that people think it is, but it's hard when the animal, when it's time to let go.
Oh,
So many
yeah.
people have called me and said, "Well, June, um, can you communicate with my dog or cat or know if it's time to let him go?" Because when it comes to your own animal, you just lose that part. You can't make it from
Yeah.
that emotional decision.
No, that's right. Absolutely.
That's right.
Do you do that a lot? Because you work as a medium sometimes, don't you?
Yes, now that I'm mostly retired, I did over 45 years private practice doing psychic readings for
Mhm.
45 years. Never advertised for it. It was just all
Okay.
word of mouth.
Word
Yeah.
of mouth. That's the best
Yeah.
way.
That's why I said it just kept happening.
Yeah.
Enough where I didn't have to have a real job. I could actually do that for a living. And I
Yeah.
do mediumship work with investigative work a little bit more now, like with the
Okay.
Haunted Bay. It's on Amazon and stuff. And that just came too. Someone asked me, "Do you want to do this?" I said, "Well, that sounds like fun. I'll try
Well,
it out." Uh, my hope, that's the investigation. But when I ever do mediumship with a person, and animals come through. I'll say, "Oh,
yeah.
here I see this dog or I see this cat." My hope is to bring that person a calmness and a peacefulness in their life. To assure them that they are still being heard from the other
Yeah.
side. They're still being loved, or they can fix something that was wrong and they didn't get a chance to fix it. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
worked in all kinds of cases. I've worked with the police on murder cases. I've worked with people that a relative has committed suicide. It's not easy work.
Mm.
You have to really distance yourself emotionally. I've worked with
Yeah.
children that have died young, little boy 10, and the parents coming to me and wanting
They're
to sue the
difficult.
doctor. It's
They're difficult cases,
very
children.
hard. You
Yeah.
want to cry. I want to
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah. So what do you have a switch? I've talked to a few mediums before, and everybody seems to have a different practice model, I guess is the word, where you know, I know from my own personal experiences, it's kind of always on. you will always be hearing, seeing things. And actually, I was just a guest on someone else's podcast, and we were talking about that sometimes it's very difficult to switch it off. But do you have a switch? Are you
Yeah,
able to switch off, or are you just bombarded by spirit all the time?
you can't let yourself be bombarded if you're going to do this work.
No,
I
no.
had 4 mediums come on Zoom to see how they would work with some people.
Yeah.
We invited guests, and one burst out into tears. The other one was talking in riddles about something, and I told them afterward, you know, in private, I said, "You're not ready for this kind of work. If you're going
Mm,
to have that much emotion, that much empathy, this is going to be a really hard job for you to
yeah.
have a client." I mean, I have cried at sessions, but I gathered myself back in because what you're doing is you're seeing, you're feeling, you're part of it, especially the murder cases that I worked on.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but you have to distance yourself, be more of the
Yeah.
observer than the participant. Yeah, it's
Yes.
not for
Oh,
everybody.
yeah. Empathic mastery is really important for somebody who
Very
is
important.
working in that kind of,
Yes.
and actually that was the show that I was on. So it all links in with each other. But empathic mastery, you need to, that is the first skill that you need to rein in, really hone in on that skill first, because you need to be able to control your empathic ability.
Yeah.
It is like a raw nerve being open to the air all the time. You know, when you get a toothache and there's a nerve exposed, and all you do is you breathe in a little bit of cold air and you feel the shoot of pain. Well, what do? You go to the dentist and you get it filled, you get it fixed up, and then the nerve is still there. It's still doing its job, but you've controlled the pain that you feel by having it filled. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the best analogy that I had, but
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a class I just taught twice in the last few weeks. Was about the
Mm,
clairsentient. What clairsentient do you
yeah.
have? Are you clairvoyant? You clairsentient? And the most known one, especially lately, people are so much in this evolution. They have awakened to this. Uh, their intuitive mind is so much
Uh-huh.
consciousness, a lot of talk. And I said, well, it starts out. You have so many people now talk about being empaths. Oh, I'm an empath.
Uh-huh.
I'm an empath. I'm an empath. Well, yeah, but you have to change that into more, say, clear audio. What does that mean?
Mm.
Most empaths have a difficult time verbally expressing what they're experiencing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They have to change their intuitive energy, if you will. And then finally,
Uh-huh.
it goes all the way up the ladder with clairvoyancy being the strongest one to work with.
Yeah. So in your classes, that is that what you're doing? You're developing those abilities? Is that what you're,
Yeah, that's
what's the point of the class, for example?
well. I probably should call it more. Well, what do you call it? I usually, I'm pretty much retired, so I don't want to get too hung into too many stuff. So I do it like once a month. But I used to teach for many years, 6 weeks and 8 week classes of developing the
Okay.
psychic self, and I did love it. It was a lot of fun, and it was
Yeah.
all in person. You know, um, but it is to give people information and enough information that they could do something with it. I
Uh-huh.
give them instructions. How can you work with being an empath? How do you work with being clear audio, where you hear things? How do you translate that into useful? Your intuition is supposed to be for useful, logical decision making. That's
Yeah,
what it's
yeah.
supposed to be used for, not sitting
That's right.
around. Though I do love seances, I have to admit, I do love seances. They're
Yeah.
so much fun. I've done some on Zoom with a really, really talented friend of mine. It's kind of like we do them, as we say, we do them for our own self. We just invite people to
Of
come.
course. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah. I've never actually been to one before, funny enough. Even
Yeah.
with all my even with all my experiences and working, I traveled and talked at the international conference on after death communication, and there's been a lot of stuff that has happened, but I've never done that before. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds
You'd
like
probably
fun
be very
anyway
good
from what
at
I've
it.
seen and heard.
Yeah, you'll
I
probably
Yeah,
enjoy it. It's rather
I
boring.
have
Seances can be boring.
can be boring.
Yeah, because you're sitting around for a long period of time, and and the medium's
Waiting.
talking, and waiting for your turn. When's my turn? When's my turn?
Yeah. I actually, why I was on someone else's show, we were talking about the fact that over time, especially over the last 8 years, I've built up quite severe, I'm going to call it, blocks to spirit. So
Oh,
I closed it off and just built
because
the wall. Didn't want to. There were a few reasons, but more the relationship aspect that I was in. I'm still in
with
it,
spirit.
but things have changed.
Oh,
No, 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 like a
oh,
physical
oh.
relationship. Um, so I was doing it because I'd been working for quite a few years. I'd been doing that as a job, traveling around, talking at conferences, and speaking as a medium, as a psychic. And then when I got into this relationship, I was told, "Oh, well, that's not real,"
Uh-oh.
and the energy shifted. And of course, when you're dumb and in love,
Oh, really?
yeah, you tend to change things, and I did, but not for the
Yes,
better. So that was the
because you can't
beginning of
deny
that
that.
brick
You
wall.
can't deny that. It is who you are.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we talked about that actually. It's like a fizzy bottle with a cork in it. That eventually the cork is going to pop.
Yes, absolutely. I remember again back to the ex-husband. I have a new husband now. Well, not new, he's kind of old, but now he's old. But
New to you.
I remember I started out, I would have clients come over in the living room, and it interfered with him. And I got it. I'm not an unfair person. I do have a hot temper,
Yeah,
and he said
yeah.
to me, "You have to stop doing readings." And like I read somewhere, I say, "Well, I miss him sometimes." He said, "It's either me or the readings." It's, "Well, I miss him sometimes." You can't,
Aha,
it's
yeah.
like telling an artist, you cannot paint anymore. You cannot play that music anymore. You just, it'll kill you.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And also, who the fuck are you to say you can't do it anymore?
Yeah.
Like that I but see, back then I wasn't thinking in that
You
way,
were in
you
love.
know?
You were falling in
Yeah,
love.
exactly. Also, now I'm over 40. I've turned 40 now. I'm 41,
Whoa.
and things have changed. It's funny how, when I was 20, I never thought about being 30. And when I was 30, I never thought about being 40. I struggled a lot as I became 30 and as I became 40. But hey, I've got no choice. As long as I'm turning 30 and as long as I'm turning 40 and as long as I'm turning 50, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
So
there
I
you
just need to
are. Yeah.
accept it. And things have changed. Just in the last 2 years, I am in a different place mentally, physically. Well, physically, yes. And I need to be back in a different place physically. But, emotionally, spiritually, I'm evolving again and coming back to where obviously I need to be. It's
Yeah, you
impossible
do
not
need
to
to be there.
accept it.
You can't
Yeah.
deny, that's denying yourself. You
Yes.
can't deny
Yeah.
yourself. You're born that way.
That's right.
I say, well, it was because of my near death experience, the psychic abilities came. But really, I was into it little before, doing yoga, start
Uh-huh.
out doing yoga when I was 16 and such. So it is who we are. That's who we are. It would be,
Yeah.
you could alter it like I've altered it. I'm not doing private readings anymore, but I
Yeah.
still then want
Yeah.
to do a reading once in a while,
Yeah.
because it's an energy, a buildup of energy.
You're being called back to it. Yeah.
Yes. That's why I said
Yeah.
the
And I
seance
guess
is fun. Well, not fun
like you
for me.
said with the near death experience, I mean that must have been predetermined. I mean if we
Yes.
if we think about what we believe and what we learn as we develop ourselves, develop our abilities. We know all about Akasha, the Akashic records, which includes everything past, present, future. So, it must have been predetermined. You were born to do this. It was just determined in that particular way to awaken whatever the abilities were that you have.
Yeah, had the path, and we always have, and I learned this in Catholic school, and so did you. We have free will. So
Yes.
this could be, I could have these abilities, but I could have said to myself, "Oh, I don't want to do that. That's too weird," especially for a
Yeah.
young woman. 1970, 71. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had so many people throughout my life. Well, not so much now, but back then, she's crazy. She's one of those loonies. She's a
Yeah.
liar. I tell people I've been called it all.
Yeah.
You got
Do
it.
you
I've
think,
been
June,
called it.
that is because of the people?
Gotta
Because
slow down.
I've heard that too. I've heard, and I guess it's a fear thing. But do you think that it's because of people like, oh, what was her name? She was huge in the US. Um, the
Oh, Sylvia
charlatan
Brown.
psychic. Is it
Oh,
Sylvia
not
Brown?
the one that read for the Reagans. You mean Patricia?
She
Sylvia
had like
Brown?
TV. Sylvia Brown. Now she passed away as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I wasn't a big
I'm not
fan of
sure if it
hers,
was
and I
her, but there
saw
was
her a few
another
times.
one that had, she was like the start of the 900 call me
Mm.
now. Oh, what was her
Oh
name? She
God.
was like a Jamaican. She had a Jamaican
Yes,
accent or whatever,
yes,
but actually
yes,
she wasn't even
yes.
from
I
Jamaica.
know who
She
you're
was.
talking. I don't know her. I can't recall her name, but I know who you're
Oh,
talking
I wish
about.
I could remember too, because I just talked about her a few weeks ago with somebody else, and they were saying, that's the show. They're the showy people. She didn't, I had more gift, more ability in my small toe than she had in her
Yes.
entire body. She was a charlatan. But do you think, now she was very early on in the piece, so she was the introduction that mainstream America, say, had to people who were working with the light, mediums, psychics, clairvoyants, etc. Is that idea that she's a charlatan, she's a liar, she's going to take her your money, come from people like that, do you think? There's like that
Yes,
they're hanging
yes,
on
the
to that shit.
snake oil
Yeah,
salesman.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I always say it's like other professions, little lawyers,
Yeah.
doctor charlatans, politicians. You, what do they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to use your wisdom. I've had people come
Exactly.
that want to give me more money, that want to see me every week, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do
Mm.
it. I said, no, I had an idea
Yeah.
of what I'm to do. I didn't, people had to wait a year before they could come back unless it was a total emergency. Then I
Mm.
decided I wanted to teach more and I got into coaching. I wanted to show people how they could build their life. Why I also worked with them to grow psychically.
Yes.
You come
Yeah.
to me as a coach. I'm not going to just tell you to get a how to get a corporate job. I'm going to look. We're going to work on developing your spiritual self while you're getting the
Yeah.
corporate job.
Yeah. 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 Miss
So
Cleo is the
yes.
name that I was thinking of.
What is it,
Miss
Miss Cleo?
Cleo? Yeah.
That's right. I see her when
Yeah.
you're talking. I see her.
Yeah.
I saw her ads.
We weren't
Yeah, that's the
exposed
kind
to
of
her
person
here in
gives a
Australia.
yeah.
I actually only ever heard of her the first time when I came to the United States. The first time I ever traveled to the US was in 1999, and I believe I was in New York. In New York City, and I was talking to some friends, and they brought it up. So it was a discussion that we'd had at that time. Never had a reading from her. I don't even know when she
Yeah.
died. She probably
You
was
wouldn't
already
want to
dead
have a
by
reading
then
from
anyway.
her.
Yeah,
You don't
and
want to have
that's
a
it.
reading.
So as time has gone on, I've heard about her, and everybody seems to, not everybody, I shouldn't say that, but many people seem to associate psychics, mediums, etc. with Miss Cleo. Or like you said, Sylvia Brown, who I also was not a fan of.
Yeah.
I
At one
I
time,
never
she
yeah.
was okay. I mean, back in the early 80s, she was on People Are Talking, the same show I ended up on, and she was okay, but it became very apparent that she wasn't really doing her spiritual work more than she was
Yeah.
doing this job. It became a job.
A job.
And
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
said if I didn't like what I was doing, I wasn't going to do it anymore. If I felt like I
Yeah.
had to do it, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. So why were you on what did you say the show was?
What did I say to who?
What show was it that you were on?
People Are Talking. It's not,
People Are Talking.
yeah, it was a popular talk show back in the early 80s,
Okay.
1980s, or
Okay.
even up a
And
little bit later up to about maybe late 80s or early 90s.
okay.
Yeah,
And
they had
why
all
were you
different
on the
people.
show?
Because about speaking with spirits of the dead people.
Oh, okay.
What can I
Okay.
do? And
So
then my
it was
first
because
book
of your
came out
ability.
too, so I kind of all came together with my first book. My first
Yeah.
book was telling people how to go for reading and how to be careful when you go for reading. You could start seeing if somebody's just trying to take you, because I
Aha.
wanted
Yeah.
readings to be
It's
in the
really
place they
important.
belong. They belong in a place, a respectable place. Good
Yeah.
ethical readers belong in a society where they are respected for their abilities, their psychic abilities.
Yeah, I've talked to other people who work in the same field, and I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit more in tune. I can often tell when someone is taught, and none of the episodes have been published. If I feel like I'm being sold up the garden path, then the episode will not make it to the show. I'm not going to expose listeners to bullshit.
Yeah,
I just won't, and I can always get a feel for it. There's a certain way that people talk, and I can tell whether, like yourself, it comes from a place of love and wanting to help people grow. And then there's another place where a lot of the people that I've spoken to are just about, I want more clients, this is why they should come to me and they shouldn't go to anybody else.
dependency, right? A
Yeah,
dependency.
it's
I
a
would
career for them.
you don't want a client to be dependent. As a reader, you are to give them the freedom to fulfill their life, to make their life
Yeah.
better, not to become dependent. I mean, I've even said to clients, because I insisted they record it in some way. It used to be the old
Yeah.
cassette things.
Oh, yeah,
And I
cassette
always say,
tapes.
oh, listen to your tape. We already talked about that. You don't need a reading. Don't come back to me till you listen to your tape for a year. Then you might be
Yeah,
able to come
yeah,
back to me. And people said, well, don't you want the business? I said, well, sure, I want business, but the business will come. Something will
yeah.
come.
And also, you haven't had time for anything to come to pass. The things that we've
Yes.
talked about, you need to allow the universe to bring these things
Yes.
to you and allow these things to happen and make it make sense because, like you said, there's a dependency. It's a bit like an addiction, I guess.
Absolutely. It's
There's
addiction.
a need for them. I need to know what is the next move that I make. What's the next
Well,
move that I make?
yes. How should I do it? Where will I go? What is his name? I'm like, do you want the
Yeah.
address too?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you know, um, if people that want to understand, they call it a reading because the person has the ability to read your acoustic records, has the ability. And if it's a shock to you, and it's like, I've had people say, oh no, I'd never do that. That's not me. Oh, you're wrong. Only to have the majority of them call me back and go, all right, I thought about it. So you, if you go to a reading and you trust that reader, I like recommendations. If I'm going to go to somebody, I'd rather somebody recommend me. And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you listen, just listen to what they have to say. Then go
yeah.
out and do your homework. Then go figure it out. Is it worth going
Yes,
back to that
yeah.
person?
Well, that's right. Yeah. Or are you just doing it simply and I know because look back in the early sort of, I think it was 2008, 2009, I did have a psychic hotline. So I had people who were working for me, but I was also very careful. I was like you. I didn't want people calling just for the hell of calling. There are people who are addicted to calling. Now, you and
Absolutely.
I would know this, and there are some people who may not, especially the younger audience members, maybe don't remember 1-900 numbers. We had them here in Australia too.
I was part of a partnership on one in the early 1990s.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah, we
back when
started
it
one.
was huge,
Yeah,
the
it's huge.
1-900 numbers were huge back then, and yes, that was the way to get clients in the door, and
Yes.
when it was a job, that is exactly how we got people in, and that was how we paid bills, and it also made way for classes and helping people with psychic development and helping people with karmic cleansing and things. There was always a goal to doing those things. It wasn't just about having the phone line. But I did notice that there were people who were addicted to
Oh,
just
yeah,
calling those
and
numbers,
lonely.
and
They were lonely.
they were lonely. They were,
Yeah.
and there were some people who just wanted somebody to talk to, and that was the only way that they. I could think of cheaper ways to do it because some of these
Oh,
lines
yeah.
were charging $5 a minute, to
Yes.
talk to some. But if that's the only human contact that they had that week or something. In Australia, however, I don't know if it was like this in the US. In Australia, calling a 1-900 number was tied, of course, to your phone bill. And
Yes.
in Australia, they developed a system called bad debt recall. So if the person didn't pay their phone bill, the phone company would actually take that money back from you, the provider, to cover the bad debt.
No, it didn't happen.
Oh, they
But
didn't
yeah,
do that?
yes, they do get blocked after a while,
They
but
blocked.
no, that didn't
Yeah.
happen. Not the company, but there were 3 of us that started, but the guy
Yeah.
he got greedy, and he wanted
Uh-huh.
us to do what I considered unethical, and so I bailed out after I
Yeah.
told him what I thought of him,
Uh-huh.
you know? In
Yeah. I had a
my own
similar
little.
experience with a person who was working for me. They decided that they were gonna take over my business, and they started poaching clients who were
Oh,
owned by my business, and they even registered a company name that was one word different to mine.
ah, yeah.
I mean, I had lawyers
Bad
involved in
karma.
it, but the thing is, what can you do, and sucked into her because she failed miserably. But that I knew was the
As I said, bad
time I
karma.
needed to bow out. I didn't need to be doing that. And I was traveling a lot. I was talking at conferences and going around the world and doing actually what I wanted to do rather than sitting at home doing tarot readings on the phone.
Yeah. It's always
Not that I
fun to
hate
travel.
that.
I had
Yeah,
I
I
had so
didn't.
much fun developing clients all over United States, and I would go back east or to Midwest, and I use it kind of like a vacation, to visit different friends and do readings. Like my readings paid for my trips. That I had friends in New York City, and they said from New York, they go, June, if you can make it here, you're going to be able to make it anywhere. I said, remember, I'm from Scotland. And they said, if you could make it at a Scottish stage, you could make it anywhere in the world. People
Yeah,
loved it
yeah.
because I believe reading should be down to earth. I should read for someone. Someone would come. I said, at that time, if you're only coming to connect with person that has left this world, no, I don't want to read for you. If you're only looking for a past life reading, it's not. I can incorporate that in the reading, but you want to
Mm,
ask questions that actually, visibly, experience wise, do something for your life.
yeah.
Help you
How is it
grow in
benefiting
your
you?
job, help you grow in your health, help you grow in your relationships. I don't want to just make predictions, though that's how I started out and I was very good at it. I wanted to
Yeah.
really champion the person, so to speak, uplift
Yeah,
them.
yeah. That's right. How does it benefit you? It's all well and good to just have a reading and be told
Yeah,
how you should be doing things, but how is that going to benefit you? Also, people don't always put into practice what you're telling them and then
tell
come
me.
back and say, "Well, this isn't working. You said this, but I've done nothing to help those changes implement, to manifest these changes." It
Yes, and
can't
that
all be on the psychic.
chaps my
It
hide.
just
That's why I would get. I'm surprised I was still in business. I would say
Yeah.
only the brave survived. I would say you
Yeah.
already asked me that question for the last 3 years in a row. You haven't done a damn thing with it. That's what I would tell them. I remember one lady leaving saying, "Oh, you told me that before." I said, don't, I said to her, "Don't come back." And she went, "What?" I said, "Don't come back. Don't come back because you think I'm telling you the same thing all the time because you're not doing it."
Yeah.
So eventually she said, "You're right," and stuff. And I allowed her to come back.
They sometimes need, people do sometimes just need a little bit of a reminder that going to a psychic, going to a medium, clairvoyant, etc., that they are not telling you what to do. They are simply reading how to help you. It's the experience is not, you don't go there for life advice. You're going there, your life is already predetermined. It's all set out for you. The goal of a psychic or a medium, etc., is to use messages from spirit, from the universe, to help you manifest the things that are supposed to be happening to you, that are already predetermined. They were already going to happen. We're just opening your eyes
Yeah.
to
Do
the
you want them to
possibilities. We're
happen?
opening. Yeah, that's right.
How do
How
you
can
want
you
to
make changes
participate
to
in them
things?
happening? How how
Yeah,
how
that's
do
right.
you want to do that? I've had I had a wonderful, unexpected, wonderful career, and I will not say that I felt I got to a time where I had somewhat finished, working with people on that level and started doing some other metaphysical work. But
Yeah.
wow, what a career! The people I've met, not all, across all over the United States and different parts of the world, it truly is the gift. That's the gift. No, I don't have the gift.
Yeah.
People say you have a gift. I said, no, the gift is the people I've met, the places I got to go
Yeah. Yeah.
because of
That's
this
right.
ability. You know,
Everybody has it in them in some way. It's whether or not we determine that we're going to embrace it. And I spoke to a really, actually, he was a really cool guy. His name is Stouffer Cavens. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's in California. He works as a psychic and a medium, and he said the same thing. It's not a gift,
no,
it is an ability that everybody has, but I chose to focus on that ability, just like a sports person focuses on, they can run. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that same thing. It's an ability. Of course I can run.
yeah,
I have the ability to run. I choose not to, but
that's exactly it. I
I
always
choose
say,
not to develop that ability.
yeah, some people. I had a friend. She could start cutting out an outfit in the morning and sew it up and have it to go out. I mean, she was
Yeah.
remarkable. I could barely sew a button on without getting it confused, but I could
Yeah.
talk to dead people.
And my fingers would probably be joined with the button onto whatever I was
Yeah,
sewing on. It's just an ability
yeah.
I did not develop.
So he
Of
is
course, I can
right.
also do it, but
If need be, I can do it. But
yes,
that's
yeah.
what I tell people. I've had people take my classes and they tell me, "June, I want to be a reader like you." I said, "Well, you have to put in time. You want to always be up in your ability. I go into
Yeah.
classes and lectures and whatever." Uh, I said, and some of it's not. I would mention their ability that they were really good at, and I said, and that's somewhere you might want to grow. You can't be me, but you can be you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you have to be yourself, yeah. You need to find what is your strong point, and anybody can do that. Anybody can develop that. And as you've said, well, you haven't said it exactly, but I've picked it up from what you've said is you think you've learned it all, and then suddenly you're learning more. It's never
Absolutely.
when you think you've learned it all, something else will come to you, because the day we stop learning is the day that we've left this earth.
Well, I hope when I leave this planet that I have at least a few seconds to learn something before I leave. Because when I
Yeah,
take it to the other side, the other dimensional space, when I come back, I can say, aha, I can use something. I do have a hard
yeah.
time with people that call themselves experts in the psychic metaphysical world. I do,
I don't know if there's any
because
such
I
thing,
don't
is
think there
there?
are experts. Oh yeah, I hear people say, "Well, they're an expert in paranormal. Oh, they're an expert in psychic readings." I said,
How?
there is. I don't know how anybody could be an expert because there's always something new to learn. There's
You've
another
always got something
dimensional
new. Yeah.
space. And so if
Yeah.
someone asked me, oh, I'm going to put you on this page or something, and but you are the expert. And I said, no, don't use that word for me. I am a
Uh-huh.
teacher. I have years and years, decades of learnings that I love to share. But don't say expert. I don't believe metaphysically and parapsychology that there are really any experts.
No, no.
Well,
You can be
that's just
very
my own thought.
learned. I agree with you. I just don't see how you could say that you are an expert, because surely
Well, they are
that
doing
just
it.
kind of means that you couldn't possibly learn anything more.
Hello. But then
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
I'm rather saucy at times to people, so I have to remember to
I like that though. That's it.
be
I'm
sweeter.
the same kind of person. Yeah. I am the same kind of person. I'm very blunt. I say it as it is. Also because I don't wanna carry around all that bullshit of
Yeah,
tiptoeing around people and, "Oh, I have to preserve your feelings." No, I don't have to preserve your feelings.
yeah.
I will be as diplomatic as I possibly can, but I'm going to tell
Yes,
you the truth.
yes. I have learned to be more diplomatic in my presentation of what I want to say to somebody. And there are times where if I feel the person is bullshitting me, I'll say, hey, listen, man, that isn't going to work here. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I can't help it. It's my Scottish blood.
yeah.
No fault of my own.
No, it's just
Hey, I'd rather
just
someone
what
just
you
tell me.
inherited.
Just tell me. Yeah, just tell me. What is it you want? What do you think?
Yeah.
Just tell me. If I don't like what you presented or I think you're being rude, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I would prefer someone be honest with me too. At least you
Absolutely.
know where you stand. There's nothing worse for your mental health than wondering what someone's really thinking.
Yeah, what are you trying to
If
say to
they
me?
told you, yeah, exactly. If they just told you straight out, if they just said what they were thinking right away, you don't have to wonder. And then it's gone. You don't have to hold on to it. There's nothing worse for your mental health, and people need to learn that really quickly,
Oh, people have
because
said
we're
to me, so,
seeing an
oh,
increase we see an increase in, depression and anxiety and stress levels and things like that, and it's because we're tiptoeing around stuff that we shouldn't be tiptoeing around. There's being horrible, there's being nasty, and there's no need for that, but
yes.
being
Yeah.
truthful, diplomatically being truthful, and I will just tell you how it is. I'm not going to make you wonder whether or not I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah. I had a friend that had said to me once, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
How you say
How you
it. Yeah.
say it. And I keep that in mind because I do have
Yeah.
I have a bluntness about me that I have worked on. So
Mm.
and people say, "Well, your voice, you sound like you're angry." And if I am, I'll say, "Well, no fucking kidding, I'm angry. Why should I mince my
Yeah.
words here? I'm not that
Yeah.
Californian that people have this idea about. No, that's not me. But there are certain people that you have to be softer with. They're going through
Yeah.
something. Most of the pain that people are in is self-indulging pain.
Uh-huh.
They've
Yes.
taken it on
Yeah.
to be in pain. Unfortunately,
Oh, yeah.
uh,
There are victims, professional victims, I call them.
yeah, in my family.
Yeah.
Knew some personally up front.
There are quite a lot of them, and especially since the pandemic, there seem to be a
Oh,
lot of professional victims, and I'm not gonna call anybody out. There are quite a few, I probably could name them, and they know how I feel, and I've told them, but, it's not because I'm trying to be horrible. I'm not trying to be hateful or hurtful. Just get off the cross. Somebody needs the wood.
get
It's
back
my
up on the
favorite
saddle and
saying.
get going.
Yeah, yeah,
You fall off a horse enough times, you get kicked, and that's being around a horse. That's what I learned when
yes,
somebody was
that's right.
complaining. They stood on my foot. No kidding. I told you to wear the cowboy boots with the long toes.
Yes, exactly. Use your freaking brain. But
Yeah,
I get frustrated too. I do get frustrated. Of course, I'm
yeah.
human. And that's my little lesson that I need to learn. I need to learn how to be a little more understanding, I guess, of other people's journeys, I
We're
suppose
alike.
that. Yeah. But I'm
Oh,
Dutch and Italian, so I have a quarter Italian and three quarters Dutch. And if anybody has ever met a Dutch person and an Italian person, they know how fiery and passionate
I
both
didn't
of
know that about
those.
the Dutch person. I mean, I know about
Yeah, oh,
Italians.
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I think I get more stubbornness from the Dutch side, so
Yeah.
I'm less inclined to accept just anything, and I've put it in my head that honesty is the only way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there is
Just
there
tell me.
there is no if, ands, or buts. It's just what it is. So that's where the Dutch side comes in. Very stubborn. I'm probably a little bit tight because of that, but the Italians are very passionate,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
very very emotive, but also really straight. There's never been an Italian I've met who hasn't told you exactly what they think when they're thinking it.
Yeah. I think, well, it's the same as why I did well back east, New York, but I had a lot of clients back east because they're more straightforward people. They'll say what they have to say. And I much prefer that. And I prefer that when I'm doing a reading. There are times I've done a reading for people and I want to tell them what's really going on, but they're taking me around the circle. And I've even said to
Yeah,
somebody, stop taking me around this circle. What do you want?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, oh. So it's
I
okay.
know, and
It's all right.
again,
It's
that's the
all learning.
lesson. That's the lesson that we have to learn. That
Yeah,
not
we have to
everybody
learn.
maybe connect. Not everybody can handle that amount of
Yes.
bluntness or something. And you know what? If I didn't know that you were from California, I would have said that you were a New Yorker. I feel as though you've probably had a few lifetimes in that region
You know
because
what? New
it
Yorkers always say
certainly
to me,
comes through.
"Where are you from?" And I tell them,
Where are you?
"Well, I'm from Scotland. I came over to America as a child." And I said, "No, no, no, no. Where are you really from?" They believe that I'm lying to them that I'm from New York. I keep saying, "Listen, I'm not," and they're like get mad at me. And there are a lot of Italians
Yeah.
there. What's the
Oh
matter?
yeah.
You don't want to
Yeah.
be from New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I
I
really
can think of
enjoy
worse
the New
places to be
Yorkers.
from. Yeah, but definitely you have that. I feel really at home in New York actually. And I
Me
wonder if it's
too.
just because of that blunt honesty that you get from New Yorkers. And I'm not sure I love it there. I always feel like I've come home. I spent 2 weeks there when I was 18, because I just loved it. The plan was to be there for 5 days and I ended up being there for 16, living in the Holiday Inn on West 44th Street.
Oh, I love the West
I
Side.
loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed it. It was so wonderful, and I would get up and jet lag and stuff. I'd been in Europe for 3 months and then decided to go across to the US, and I was 18. I was just exploring, and I would get up and go walking around Midtown, and then I took the
Yeah.
subway out to the Bronx. And my friend said to me, "Are you nuts? You went to the Bronx? Like, why?" I said, "Well, actually, I was looking for a McDonald's." And I just had ventured into the subway station. I thought I'll just get on this train, and ended up out. Where did I go to? I think it was no, actually, that wasn't that time. But a few times I'd just get on the subway and see where I would end up. Astoria Boulevard. I got I just went out wherever.
Yeah. It just,
Walking around the Bronx in
all
1999
you have to do is
probably
walk
wasn't a very
around.
smart idea. Yeah, you just walk
No,
around.
no. Yeah, you just walking around and seeing people. I never had a problem in New York. I
No,
never had anybody come up to do anything to me or whatever.
I didn't look like a
Actually, I had
tourist,
people
and
who were
I think
helpful.
that's the key. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went
The
down to
key
the
is to look
Bowery.
like you belong.
Yeah, you just have to walk like, don't mess with me, man. Here I am.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I learned that really early on that, especially traveling on my own 5 days after I turned 18, I left the country. I was determined to go out and have these experiences. And so I did, but I felt like I belonged. So it was easy to look like I did.
That's it. But that's a good point to bring up. My son went down to stay in Rio de Janeiro and outside. People said, "Why
Oh,
did he
wow.
go there?" I said, "What are you kidding? He went down there to see the women." But so I went down to visit him, and he took me to places. the tourists didn't go because he had a knack of
Uh-huh.
just making friends with just about everybody and anybody,
Yeah.
which I worried me. I'm like, oh my god, my son. Ah. But
I'm sure
I
my
had
mother
the
felt the
greatest
same way.
time. Oh yeah, they have to go, but you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god. Um, and just the places he took me and the actual people and how they responded favorably to us. We didn't act like we were there as tourists. We were going down the streets. We were meeting the actual real Brazilians, and not the
Yeah.
tourist part. Yeah,
That's
that
right,
was a
yeah.
trip.
I did that in Punta Cana, actually, in the Dominican Republic, and I was told
Yeah,
not to leave the resort where I was staying, but I thought, "Well, what is the point of being here if all I'm gonna do is stay at a resort? I could do that anywhere."
yeah. Now I probably would.
And
I'm
I had a
lazy.
great time.
You can't. I went to Jamaica. The Jamaicans brought me there. The black
Mm.
Jamaicans. They wanted me to come there, so they paid for my trip and such. And then I did some readings, and they had me come down. They said, "Well, is there one thing you want to do?" I said, "Well, at that time, I want to go to a voodoo ceremony."
Oh, wow,
And
how interesting.
and they said, "Well, it's not voodoo hooer, it's Pucamania." So I went.
Ah.
Oh, it's a long story, but oh my god, the woman that was the leading herbalist was one of my hostess, and she went to ask what they're called the bishop, the women and stuff. And I said, "You mean the woman from across the water, the white woman? Yeah, we know she's coming." They knew that I was coming.
They
The
knew.
woman that asked didn't say I was white or where I was from. She said,
Ah.
"Listen, I have a guest that's coming. Could she come?" She goes, "Yes, the white woman that's coming from across the water." So I went
Wow.
and it was like a National Geographics. Yeah, we went into
Wow.
this town called Jamestown, where the
Uh-huh.
police won't even go down there.
Really?
And we were,
I've heard of
sec-
Jamestown, actually.
yeah, it's right in, oh God, Kingston, right in
Kingston,
Kingston.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the poorest projects of the projects. I mean,
Wow,
people's
okay.
shirts, and the streets are only so wide. What an incredible, beautiful experience. They did the candles, the dancing. The women had impeccable colors on, reds and yellows, and everything was so clean. But the earth was uneven. You sat on benches, and oh my
Oh.
god,
What an
yeah,
amazing experience. I mean, that would have been
yeah,
so wonderful. Why as humanity, like as a human race, do we stop ourselves from experiencing these things? I mean, I know not everybody does. I know that there are intrepid travelers like us, where
yes,
we need to get into the nitty-gritty. And it's all I've ever done. Anytime I've gone somewhere, of course there's the tourist shit. I call it shit because that's exactly what it is. It is created just for the tourists, that it's to bring money, and I get all of that. I
yeah,
get that. But it is not a true representation or a true uh experience unless you go away from that beaten path and really experience what it's like to be a local.
yes, to be with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The real
yeah, and
people, not the
you have to
people
be
who are
willing
fixing
to
your
do it.
drink,
You have to be willing, and
rubbing your
uh,
feet.
and it can be a little intimidating if it's something
Yeah.
that does appear, and you do have to use your wits about you too,
Yeah, yeah.
as you know. you know um, yeah,
Absolutely,
that was my
everywhere.
first experience with very, very low grade entities. I went to a house to
Yeah.
do a
Oh,
cleansing um, exorcist, and I
yep.
learned there that wasn't for me. I'm a good medium. I know what I'm doing, but I am not an exorcist, and I don't want to
No.
be.
No, no.
It is for whoever else wants to do that, but it is frightening, actually.
That's a completely different path though too. I feel like you really need a specific skill set in order to be able to
Yes,
do that and do it effectively, that you don't leave the people who you're performing that ritual for open and exposed to more.
yes,
There's very specific. I probably wouldn't do that either. Well, not probably, I would not do that. I've had my fair share of experiences with the low level entities, and it's not for
yes.
me. It's
Yeah,
not
so
for
I,
me.
I don't sign up. I've had people and I say, well, let me see if I can think of somebody that is not. I'm Little Miss Sunshine. Let's make your
Yes,
life
yeah.
better. I don't
Yeah.
want to go down
Yeah,
into that dark
absolutely.
space because it's
I
there.
love it.
And I'm not a
That's
superstitious
the other
person.
thing.
I've
At least
seen
we
it. I know
know.
it.
Yeah, we need
It's
to be
there.
aware that it is there. We need to accept and acknowledge that it's there, but I definitely don't need to hold my hand up and say, "Here, pick me."
Yeah. Oh, and that's what irritates me about people saying, "Oh, can I go? Oh, I'm going to call in. Whatever you are, you can come to me." I go, "What are you fucking nuts?" Oh,
Yeah,
excuse
wow.
now, you
No, that's
can't do
okay.
that. You can't do that because you
Yeah.
will have an attachment. You will become sick. You just
Yeah.
can't do that.
No, that's right.
Whatever.
I know. There's
I don't
some
want to
important
experience
lessons
it.
there. I know, exactly. June, tell me about your book. You were just talking about doing an audiobook before we started recording, but is
Yeah,
there a new book or
my very first book that came out, a little hokey little book, 1990,
Skye in June?
it took a village to put it together, but it's still
Yeah.
out. I wanted to do it, and that was about how to go for reading, how to pick a reading. What do you do with the information? How do you ask the right questions to get the most out of the reading? Don't ask,
Yeah.
will I have a relationship? I don't know. Will you? You
Oh,
know,
I don't mean to
rather
mock
would a
anybody who
relation,
asks that
yeah,
question,
yeah,
but
would a relate.
Jesus.
I know we have to be very careful. We're not making fun of anybody. Um, is this what will I learn in a relationship? How will I attract the relationship that will
Yeah.
teach me the most? So that I want to make
Yeah,
into
yeah,
an
yeah.
audiobook. The book that became an audiobook, not narrated by me, um, was How to Talk with Spirits and
Okay.
seances, mediums, ghost hunts, kind of give you the whole lowdown. How do you could do it
Yeah.
on your own, but you got to set it up right. You want to,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
purposely say, I'm going to go and communicate with spirit, you want to set it up right because you can track any spirit to you, not just the
That's
one you
right.
want to
Yeah.
talk
It's
to.
really important you know what you're doing. It
Yeah.
um that was something I learned that in a book, I think. And then somebody said, "Oh yeah, like really be sure you know, don't just fuck around."
No.
That's the best, most blunt way I can put it. Do
Oh, yeah.
not fuck around. It is serious, and people think of it as a bit of a joke, and I know that.
Ah,
I know that people think that it's a bit of a joke, and
it's,
it's a bit of fun and light entertainment,
and it
but
can be
it
fun,
it can be.
but in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right atmosphere, in the
Exactly.
right
At
situation,
least
like the
know
Winchester
know
house.
what it is you're doing. Have an
Yes,
idea at least that you know what you're doing and protect yourself. It's as simple as, cover yourself in white and gold light. Just
absolutely.
those little steps alone are going to help you no end.
Cast your circle. If you want to pray to
Yeah.
God, you want to do. I often will even do a rosary before I do this. At least a couple of decades of the rosary before I do a
Yeah.
seance, just to kind of calm
Yeah.
myself, to call in the spirit, to call in the goddess. Here I am. I'm in the circle.
Yeah.
Only good can come here.
I
Yeah,
used
people
to
don't
say to
know.
people, ask your spirit guides to call forth protective entities. You know, if you are doing this, you've got to believe that you've got spirit guides, surely. Otherwise, what are you doing? You shouldn't be messing around with it. You know, people don't realize that when they do start messing around with it and they're just having a bit of fun and it's just a bit of a laugh or whatever, like you said, you could have an attachment. And people have had it. And those
Oh
things
yeah, I
leech
got
on
it
and
once.
they're psychic vampires.
Oh, I had it once. And
Yeah.
I won't go into the whole reason why it happened, but I was always like, well, I don't have those things, and I got it. So I guess it
Yeah.
was, oh well, this is how it's going to feel then, and it's not a
Yeah.
game at all. And
It's not a
me, who
game.
takes
It is.
so care of
Yeah.
myself in this particular group, I did not do that. I didn't
Ah.
do what I preached, and I
Uh-huh.
got this attachment. So I
We
learned
always
my
have to
lesson
learn our
there.
lessons some way. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought in my lifetime I would have an attachment ever.
No. Actually, I don't know if you ever saw it. It's still available now, and I don't want to promote it, but the Ouija board, there was a game company that brought it out as a quote unquote board game. Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Ouija board.
No, but this company irresponsibly marketed. They even had it on TV here. It
Yeah.
was on TV
Yes.
marketed as a game for 12 to 16-year-olds,
Yes.
like,
I seen it.
"Oh, have your fun." And it had a little
Yeah.
a glass thing, and I just thought it was back in the 90s when I think it first came out, and I just remember seeing it and thinking, "Wow,
Yeah.
how irresponsible," because people who are doing that, the little book that came inside, I ended up going and buying one. I wanted to see what it was. I had the advantage that I had been reading books about contacting, communicating with spirit and, witchcraft and all this type of stuff. I'd been doing it since I was a kid. I was exposed to it very early. So I had that advantage. But there are so many people who don't. And that book did not tell you anything about protecting
Nope.
yourself spiritually, psychically is so important if you're going to mess around with those things, and especially with the Ouija board. That's where the low level stuff tends to come in, and very easily,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they will attach to you. And if you don't close off the channel properly, you leave it open for more shit to come through. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
dangerous. It really worried me to see
Yes,
kids were
I am not
playing
a
with
fan.
this
People
this
ask me, and
game.
I tell them straight up, I'm not a fan of it. I wouldn't have it. I'm not going to promote it. I'm going to tell you not to have it, you know, because as you said, it just opens up so much. It just opens up, and you don't know then how to shut it down. People like you and I are trained. When I first started doing a lot of tarot classes and going to different events, medium stuff, no one really ever talked about the protection. And when I started teaching
Yeah.
classes, that was in my first and second class right
Oh,
away. And we
yeah.
did protection every time. Even if I'm just teaching tarot, we did a meditation, then a protection place.
Oh, you should
It's
always, especially with when you've got your cards and things like that. There are still things that can attach through your cards.
yes,
People who have a strong connection with their cards, whether they're I know that there are different types now. It just used to be tarot when I was going through it,
yeah.
but now there's angel cards, and there are
There's
other
so many different kinds. It's
so
just a
many different
different.
ones,
Uh,
but the messages are coming from you're still channeling a message. You may not feel that you are a medium, but you are still channeling messages from spirit guides. They are directing you, they are leading you, and you need to protect yourself.
I tell people all the time. A client would ask me something, and I would respond with my, psychic insights. And they say, "Oh, June asked the cards." I said, "All right." I said, "But I love the tarot. I mean, I have it. I hold it. I put it on my altar. I do different things with it. But um, it's us. We're the
Yeah,
ones. But the
yeah.
symbols do help you. And
The
when I have
symbols, that's
people
right.
read the cards and they start reading, I said, "Do you know that that number 8 is assigned to that card for a particular reason? Have you studied the numerology? Have you studied the astrology of that card?" And too many people reading the cards without really studying them. I mean, I'm studying the Kabbalah and the major arcana now forever. I mean, it's taken me forever. It's so
Uh-huh.
above my brain grade. To the east, to the west of the upper echelon. I'm like, huh?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sounds
Mm.
like I'm doing a law degree at the moment, and so and having read some of the books where you just don't comprehend the information,
Yeah,
it's such complicated information, and you just think, "How am I ever going to actually get this?" Persevere. You just need to keep
but you do.
going.
As
That
all of a sudden it comes to you one day. You go,
it
"Oh,
does.
I believe that
Yes.
I'm even a better tarot reader when I use the cards now because I've taken off time to really in depth study mysticism." Once I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
studying mysticism, I understood how sacred. I mean, I always knew the cards were sacred, but really deeply sacred.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right. Again, not a
some of the
game.
it's not a game. I tell people it's not a game. It's fun. You can have fun with it. I've had fun with
Of
it.
course you can have
Uh,
fun, yes.
but the coaching I do now is it's metaphysical coaching. I'm not looking to get anybody to something, and we talk about that. I have a client, and she's been studying through coaching and applying it to life, her tarot. And her originally,
Uh-huh.
how she thought about the tarot, I would read it. I would just be like, no, no, no. You
Yeah.
can't just
Yeah.
make up a meaning for it. There's a reason that they have the symbols. There's a reason they have that number. There's a reason. So you can't just say,
Yes.
"Oh, this
Yeah.
is what I think it means." No.
No. No.
Anyway.
Well,
Okay.
that takes completely away from the purpose of them. People are not coming to you for your interpretation. It's not That's
Yeah.
not what it is. It's not what
It's been an
is
interesting
important.
life. I don't plan on leaving it, but I have to say it's been up to now an interesting life. Not
Absolutely.
planned, but here it
Absolutely.
is.
I
And I get
want
to meet
people to
people all
go.
over like yourself.
Yes, well, that's exactly. I love actually this particularly, like the podcast and being able to meet so many people, which, before, back in the now 2003, I had a radio show, and the only way that we could talk to people was through the phone. There was no Zoom. There was Skype, which
Yeah,
we
there was
kind of
Skype.
used a little bit, but that was a terrible platform that
Oh
has not
yeah.
improved over the years. But it sort of started that whole internet communications. But as
Yes.
far as the radio show was concerned, we were doing talk radio. Started out here in Australia. It then actually got picked up in the United States, which was what led to me traveling there in 2011. But uh you know this is completely different. Back then, like I said, it was just over the phone. I couldn't see anybody that I was talking to, and I had a connection, of course, with them, with the guests that I was speaking to. But this is so much more. And I think that the listeners as well have a better way of connecting with people. They're able to be exposed now to guests that normally they would only be able to hear them. Now we can see each other, and I share some of the videos now and then. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm congested.
And I like, yeah, I know you were telling me, but eh, regardless of people I actually really do like meeting. I like people because I like
Yeah,
to hear
yeah.
where they've been, what they've done, what's their thoughts. You know,
Yes,
I enjoy people. Not so much like I
absolutely.
used to, but I still enjoy people.
I think again, it comes back to protecting yourself. There are so many people who have agendas out there. Um, it's hard. It's hard work to not get caught up in their bullshit. You just have to sort of set the boundaries, and boundaries is a really difficult thing for everybody. It's
Yeah.
I mean, if there's one thing that the COVID pandemic taught us, is that we had no boundaries before.
No, and setting boundaries. Uh, well, I remember one time somebody said to me, "Oh, June, I wish I could just be like a bitch like you and just tell people." I said, "I'm not a
Oh, thank
bitch.
you.
I'm not a bitch at all. I might be a
No.
kick-ass woman, but I'm not a bitch." I said,
Yeah.
"You have to have boundaries. You have to let people know, like, hey, you're not going to talk to me like that, or no,
Yeah.
I make a date with you, you keep canceling on me. No, you can't do that anymore."
That's
And
right.
people
Yeah.
have a hard time with speaking up. And
Yes, they do.
yeah,
I wonder what that is too sometimes. I think,
well,
are
it's to
you
be
afraid
nice.
of retribution, or
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
it's to be nice, especially
afraid of
women. Females are taught to
yeah.
take a lot of shit in life.
Well,
You
I
know,
hope that well, things are not good for you guys in the US, and I
no,
understand that, but I hope that things will start to be better. It has to get better. We're probably at the lowest of the well, we're probably not at the lowest we can go, but as a society, I think that we need to start healing and
yeah, we're in an
moving forward.
evolution,
And
the cosmic energy,
yeah.
and it's
Oh,
not
absolutely.
easy.
We need to enter that new
Evolutions have never
age.
been easy. I
No.
mean, if I have
No.
20 years left, if I have that, I'll be off the planet. But everybody else, like you, you're young. You'll still be going through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
I'm in
not
my
that
last.
young.
I'm in my last decade of my life.
Yeah.
One way or
Yeah.
another. I mean, I'm in my 70s. If I live to my 90s, well, so be
Yep.
it. Might
I think
not.
of my grandparents actually. Did they expect to be, because they're 91? Did they expect
Yeah.
that they would be here still at 91? Their parents never lived that long. Their parents died in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
So
that's it. Yeah, my
they
mother
never
lived to
saw half the
96.
things.
My
Oh,
father
okay.
lived to
So
his
you've got the good
60s.
genes.
Yeah, my mother was 96. Wonderful, wonderful woman. My father, mean. He died in his 60s.
Oh,
But He might
See,
have been
mean
mean. He
people.
was a
Yeah.
hard man. He was an amateur boxer in Glasgow, and he taught us all how to box. But he taught us how to be tough.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my mother was soft and played piano and danced and everything. My father was hard.
Uh-huh.
So he came to United States. He brought his children. He made a better life for us. So that's the balance there. You know, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
be tough, but you have to have a bit of softness. But you can't be overly soft or overly tough. There has to be a
That's right. There
balance.
has to be the balance. Yeah. And that's with everything. There has to be a balance, which is now this whole thing that's going on. Roe v. Wade is being overturned, and there's all this other
It's
stuff that's
shocking.
being challenged. There's no balance.
No,
And
shocking.
the world will automatically shift and balance itself back out again.
Right.
Whether we want to or not, it's going to happen.
It will
We
find
just have to be
it may
either
not be in my
accepting of it or,
lifetime. Yeah, it may not be in my lifetime.
yeah.
It may be, I don't know, but you have to keep faith and send your
Yes.
send
Yeah,
your
that's right.
your thoughts of that to the universal
Yeah.
flow.
That it just seems to be a minority that are putting us into this weird space that we're in now. So it's important that we
It's bad here.
get ourselves
I
out of
mean,
it.
I
But
even one of my dearest siblings, who I've always got along with, politically is on the opposite side of me, and he hung up on me because I said something like, "Well, you're a sexist
oh,
then." No, I'm not.
oh,
Yeah, you have to be if you're supporting
if
this.
you believe that, yeah.
And so even families are dividing.
That's a shame. It's a
It
shame
is a
because your
shame. It hurt me
family is
very
that
deeply.
one
Oh,
place
I
where you
love
should
him.
feel safe,
He's
and yeah,
always been a
yeah.
wonderful brother. I don't know what happened to him, why that happened, but there it is. And
So many things have happened where you least and
yeah.
that orange dictator that you had recently
Oh, oh,
shifted things. That was a
brought out
completely different paradigm that really brought out all the shitty
let
traits that people
let
had
let
buried.
people come vocal about their hates and prejudice. It's always
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there.
Look,
He
I'm
just
guilty
gave
of
them
it
a
too.
stage.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it
Just a
too
stage.
because I guess my disdain for him has I've always
Yeah,
been outspoken about it. You know, I don't sit on either side of the fence. I want people who are going to work for the people and do the right thing. So I don't care which side of politics you come from. Here in Australia we have a similar, it's Labor and Liberal. Liberal is the
yeah,
Republicans, Labor is the Democrats. And then you've got the independents. It's the same thing here. I don't
yeah,
care which side of the table you're coming from, but if you're doing shitty things, I'm gonna say you're shitty.
yeah. Yeah. Well, my husband's very into all the politics. I am in my own way. I did all my marching. I was a union woman. I worked as a blue collar worker for years, and I got a
Yeah,
chance to
yeah.
make decent money. I marched for the right to have a choice. I
Uh-huh.
did all my stuff. I was the bra burning type of woman. I was always involved. Now I'm involved in a different way, and I'm involved. Well,
Yeah.
financially, I support things, uh, but I also meditate on what I want. I'm not so physically involved, like marching all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
My poor
Yeah.
little back
Yeah.
can't take it.
And
So
sometimes, you know what, marching isn't the message that you need to be sending out anyway. That's not the way
I
that you
want the
make the
young people, the
difference.
women, especially. I tell my nieces and their daughters, you guys have to be involved. I've done all my part.
Yes, yeah,
And I
that's
still
right.
do it. But this isn't just you thought you had all this freedom because of people like me.
And look how
Now you
easily
got
it's
to get
being
out
taken
there. Next thing
away
they'll be
by these
taking our vote
people.
away again.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right. Black people won't be able to marry white people. Gay people won't be able
yes,
to marry each
yes.
other anymore.
Can you believe
All these
it?
things, they're all
Oh
on
my
they're all
God.
targeted now. Yeah. Yeah.
Gays being targeted. Their marriage is just so. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And especially things that they've fought so hard to have.
Yes.
That is what Stonewall is all about. People need to, if you don't know what Stonewall is, go and read about it. Those people, it's 50 years now since Stonewall. I think it was 1970s that Stonewall happened. And those people marched and they fought for equality. And younger people, especially in the LGBTIQ community, a lot of them don't know the backstory.
Oh, how
of
bad.
equality for gays and lesbians
Oh
and
my
things. And
god.
you know, well, San Francisco is the place. You know,
Well, I grew up
that
in
was
I grew
the
up, it's called Eureka Valley in San
uh-huh.
Francisco neighborhood, but now it's known
Yep.
as the Castro. And I
Oh yeah,
grew
I know
up
the
there.
Castro. Yeah, yeah.
And, I went down there and I became friends with the gays,
Yeah.
some of the gays didn't want me there, what's she doing here and stuff. And I was a young woman,
Yeah.
19, 20, 21, because I like people. How you act
Uh-huh.
is how,
Yeah.
if I like you or I don't like you, not because of anything
Yes.
you are, you know. Um, yeah, it was a trippy time down there. And a lot of the young men were gay bashing all the time. They were beating them up
Yeah.
and everything. It was a lot of fights, a lot of
Targeting them
clashes going on.
specifically. Yeah.
Castro
Yeah.
wasn't. Um, Harvey Milk. I used to sit in Harvey Milk's. He had a photo shop on Castro Street, and I'd go in there with those kind of pictures you couldn't take everywhere to have them
Uh-huh.
developed. You had to have your pictures developed, so you didn't want to take them to the corner
Yeah, I
drugstore
remember.
where everybody was going to your
I am
church.
old enough to remember that. Yeah.
So Harvey Milk, I would go in there, and he had a couch, and people were getting loaded and stuff. And he was a delightful person, Harvey Milk.
Yeah.
He was killed and shot.
I
Um,
remember, yeah.
and a leader.
There's a
Yeah.
movie about
So
him called Milk. So if you're out
yeah,
missing and you don't know who we're
yes, I
talking
saw it.
about, you should check out that
So,
movie. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
an
yeah.
abridged version.
Yes. Yes, it is. And lots of drugs, man.
It's a good
There were
movie
a
though.
lot of
It is
drugs
actually a
down
good
there.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of drugs down there, a lot of drugs in San Francisco, a lot of changes. Yeah, it was a trippy time. I sometimes look back and go, wow, I actually that was my error, my time.
Well, San Francisco is known as the place, where freedom was. It was very open to everything. I know, well, Margaret Cho, she grew up in San Francisco. Her parents moved from Korea, and they had a sex shop, I think. They had down in the same area. I think she grew up in the Castro area. She's a
Oh,
comedian now.
oh yeah, yeah, I know who she is. She's younger than
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think she's in between you and I, so she's in her
Yeah, yeah,
50s.
I've seen her. I've
Yeah.
seen her. Yeah,
She's
yeah.
wonderful, and
Well,
she's
I
a
probably
true
then knew her
advocate.
parents'
And
store. Her parents had a
yeah,
store.
well, I
Yeah,
mean, they were really popular. They were really popular, and they had gay people, trans people around them all the
yeah.
time,
Oh
and it was
yeah,
just
that's
the
such a.
area for it.
My parents had a fish
Yeah.
and chip shop.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Oh, a
Yeah,
fish
we
and
used to
chip
work
shop.
there
That's
and
awesome.
yeah. Yeah, we had it
Yeah.
right there on 18th Street, 18th and
Okay.
Castro. Yeah. My husband's
And was that
parents
something
had hmm?
your husband's parents, sorry?
He had a billiard hall on 19th and Castro.
Oh.
I didn't never
Oh,
look at them.
okay.
I wasn't interested in them back then. But our families knew each other. You live in a
Uh-huh.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
You said that your parents had a fish and chip shop. Was that what they brought with them for their livelihood?
no,
Like,
that was
because
no. My
that's a
father
British
was
thing,
a
isn't it?
yes, yes. My father was an engineer for ships, designing the
Okay.
air conditioning and all that on ships at Bethlehem
Right.
Steel. My mother was a
Wow.
secretary, but later on, my mother wanted to have this, and my father put that together for her, and it was very, very popular. Then my father
Wow.
had problem. My father had a heart attack and all that, but it was very
Yeah.
popular. We all worked there, and we used the paper, the vinegar, and the paper, roll it up.
Yeah,
Can't use the
yeah.
paper
Yeah.
now. Now you
Not
can't use the
anymore.
paper.
No, we had that here
Yeah.
too. We had the newspaper and stuff for
Oh yeah, and it
now
just
it's
has that
butcher
smell.
paper.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
the vinegar, the salt, the fatty food made in
Fatty
lye.
food. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. The stuff we shouldn't be having now.
Oh, okay, my
You
friend.
get to a certain age and you really shouldn't be having that anymore.
Exactly, exactly.
June, it has been such a pleasure speaking to you. I'm acutely aware that we've been talking for a long time. This is the longest interview that I've had. So, yay.
We're having
If
fun.
there was a
So
prize,
yes.
you'd win it.
Well, I feel like I'm just talking to a friend. That's what I feel like.
Thank you.
Like we're just
That is exactly what I wanted. Yeah.
shooting the breeze. And
Yeah.
same in the same profession. We get to talk, shop talk, and
Yes.
it was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, very
Absolutely. It
much.
has
Thank
been.
you
I
so
want people to
much.
check
And
out your book. It's called
oh,
The
I do
Skye
want
in
to say
June.
my one of my both my novels, if I just say, The Skye In June
Yes,
is one of
please.
my first novel, and it is about a Scottish immigrant family that comes to live in the Castro and what
Uh-huh.
happens. And the little
Fantastic.
girl is they're for a very Catholic family, but the little girl is into the psychic. She has visions. But the book I
Okay.
really and that's the most beloved book. Has a lot of really positive reviews. But The
It's still
City of
in print and it
Redemption.
is available on
Oh,
Amazon and your
through
website,
me or Amazon
juneahern.com, I think.
or
Yeah.
yeah, just put the Skye, like the Isle of Skye in June, and people find it
Yep.
everywhere. Uh, City of Redemption. I was down in Hollywood doing a play for the Skye in June, and I met this young Scottish actress who wanted me to write a screenplay for her. So I
Uh-huh.
started to write it, if you don't mind me saying. And then my best friend, who is also my sister, died unexpectedly.
Oh gosh.
One day she just died. So I stopped
Oh
doing it.
gosh.
But then I went back and wrote it, and it's about the Black Panthers and the drugs and the hippie days. And it's a really cool book.
That's
That's the City
cool.
of Redemption.
Is that
Talking
on your
about fish and
website
chips.
too?
Yes, everything's on my website.
Okay.
Yeah,
So June
yeah,
Ahern, I've put a link in the show notes. So if you're listening, have a look there. There's a link to go and visit and find you. But it's been such a pleasure, and I would be happy to
yeah,
have you back anytime. We could probably make another 2-hour episode, I'm sure.
yeah. Let's do a little spirit stuff there. Maybe somebody
Let's
could
do it.
write in or ask or something, and let's have fun.
We could
Let's
do a
have a good
live
time.
stream actually. We can
I'd
we
love
can
that.
probably
People
promote
call
that
in.
and we could do it. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have call-ins? Well, whatever you
Um
want.
we could I don't know how it works precisely because I actually haven't done one with this new platform, but I know that it goes through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of those places, and people can at the very least I know that they can be in the chat with us and we can see it in live time. So it's absolutely a possibility and I would love to do that. So if you're
Yeah.
listening and you're
Okay.
interested, let us know so that we can organize it and make it happen.
Thank you.
And hopefully by
Thank you
then
for
all
having me
this
on.
COVID
That
shit that
was a
I'm
lot of
going
fun.
through is going to be gone. Thanks so
Cheerio.
much, Jude, for joining us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.